Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in to the Coach Henry Show. I am so excited to share with you all a very special guest, someone that's very dear to my life. I will let her do a little intro, but I'm truly thankful. This person truly was my first, honestly, number one fan in my life. Someone that 12 years old supported me. I'll never forget. We were on a soccer field. I was sharing my entrepreneur fails and successes, and she just said, "Brother, sounds great." So with that, give away my amazing, beautiful sister, Trixy Castro, and then I'm going to clap for her. So, sister, thank you for being on the show. And thank you for my sponsors, Brownstone Capital and Vibe Concierge. Okay, sister. So, sister, we have a certain time limit that we need to be able to contain our great conversations. So, I'd like you to share with those that don't know you a little bit about some of the successes that you have in business and a little bit about you, and that we can get right into it because I know they want to hear all the great things that you have to share.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited. Congrats on doing this.
Thank you. Yay.
I know it's really, really awesome, but it's funny you should say that story because I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was asked, I don't know, last week or something, who was the entrepreneur that inspired you? And instantly it was you that I said. And it was that day I also remember sitting on mom and dad's couch and listening to you talk about your different adventures and thinking that is so incredible. That is so cool. And that really stemmed for Trixy's Tutor time.
The 3 T's.
Yep.
Trixy's Tutor time.
Yep. And that was such a, at 14 years old to figure out how to make money.
Yeah.
Really did kind of give me that, hey, where there's a will, there's a way. Mm-hmm. And you have that first taste of your little success and whatever that means to you at that time.
Yeah, I think you got a great little taste of like effort and reward, right? Not only on the monetary side of money, but just like probably at 14 walking away going, gosh, I helped do something good here.
Right.
Yeah.
And able to help these kids and they liked it, and to see them excited and then the parents excited because it made their life easier. It was really a great experience. So then, of course, wanted to go be legit and go to Wells Fargo. I think I was the worst teller on the planet.
No, sister, because look, I think the toughest thing to talk about in life ultimately is money for people, right? I mean, because they either want to go do something with it or they don't want to give it up.
Right.
Right. So you being as kind and as nice, telling them, oh, hey, your account's low. Because back in the day, you didn't have online like you do. You didn't have all these apps you can look at. I mean, you had to like, hey, by the way, how am I doing? know? So I'm sure you had delivered. But I want to go back to you because I've been really good. And I want to get to 3 major areas today that I want these amazing viewers to hear about you, because we're going to unpack that. But going back to you, can you tell me a little bit about like maybe some of that Trixy's Tutor time turned into pretty amazing, and there's a couple that come to mind. So can you share just a couple of those?
Yeah. I think that was a foundational moment, right?
Yeah.
But then went to the banking industry and wanted to kind of hedge my bet, really wanted to learn finance, banking, and as well as real estate, right? Those were the 2 areas that I could see follow the money. These were 2 areas that made sense for me.
Yeah, and I always like that you say that, follow the money, because it's true. It's like, so continue.
And I was in school, as you remember, in college and the whole thing. And the long and short is I saw an opportunity and I saw a niche for a group that was at the time very much passed over. And that was the builders, the communities, the fix and flip community. So I set out to start a bank and of my own, and that was Genesis Capital, still around today. Started it with a phone and a desk probably the size, half the size of what we're in today, and heard all of the reasons why it wasn't going to work. But what I heard was, oh, those are objections. Great. Thank you for telling me that, because now I know how to overcome them for the next conversation.
But even that, and that's why I say there's going to be so many episodes from this, sister, because as I've grown and listened more into this world, right, that you said it was your perspective. You saw it as, oh, you just told me everything that's wrong. So now I really saved years, time, effort, research money, because thank you for your hate, because they weren't doing it to be nice to you.
Right.
They were doing it because you're a woman in this space. Get out of it. Here's all the reasons. But you're like, Thank you. So
Yeah.
another word that had come to mind, because there's a great book out there called Gap and Gains, right? You saw the gap, you saw the challenges, and you did something about it.
And that turned into also having, so that became the debt provider, right?
Yeah.
For these different groups, wanted to institutionalize it because it was just a bit of the wild, wild west. So
Right.
rather than, okay, two people in the back room giving money to this guy, I wanted, or to that guy or to this girl, I wanted to be able to bring the structure and order and really scale it into an asset class.
Yeah.
So that piece then saw an opportunity to be able to provide the asset, i.e. the REO homes at the time. So created an online auction company to sell all the distressed real estate, foreclosures, and in it. So I had both of them, Genesis Auctions, which turned into Hudson Marshall, Genesis Capital, which was the lender, running both of them out of a tiny shop and 2 cans in a stream. And we could talk about the team and how amazing they are after, but those both turned into behemoths. One we monetized and sold to Fidelity, and 9 months later closed on Genesis Capital, selling to Goldman Sachs. So
that alone, okay, because those watching, I want to believe y'all very savvy, but sister, just listen to what you just told me, okay? And I know that because look at, you're very humble, and that is one of the most amazing qualities that I do love about you. But I also feel, I'm going to switch it. I am aware, everybody, that I'm jumping ships for a moment. So, I'm also, to me, that is the very essence of entrepreneurship, but your heart. Because see, from the very beginning, you were doing things, and because of your good heart, we are going to share one story that just crumbled you in the sense of people and betrayal. But again, you take your licks, and then you're like, okay, well, that won't happen again. Again, thank you for exposing me. We're going to come back to that. But the reason I bring that up is because you're so humble that we don't take the time as family to go, you know what? Wow, that was amazing. What am I going to do with that now? And how am I going to continue to move forward? Because it's like, that was a great moment, sister. You were in the big leagues. I mean, you are, but I'm saying that moment, you just got in to the platform that people will talk about, dream about. You're in it, and you're still in it. But at that point, you sold to people that no one ever thought you'd be there,
Right.
ever. And not only that you survive, you thrived in it and continue to do so. So when you had your moment going, man, I just sold this company for X amount of money. I just did these accomplishments, of course, with your team, but you did head it up. It was your vision. You're like, okay. And then what I loved about it too is that you did all sides, as we say, the bookends. You didn't just do one side. It's kind of like, not only it's like Target has their own brand, right? You not only have a store, you now have your own merchandise in that store. And then you also have the delivery of that merchandise of your own. So you triple decked it. So that's brilliant.
Thank you. But I think the win for me was being able to create something out of nothing, and being able to say to myself, the only inhibitors that I have are here. It's in your mind, right? And so I know people say that, it's a very cliche, but it's really true in my life and in yours. And I think that one of the things that our family always does is we encourage and support each other.
Yeah.
Back to the soccer days, right? But I think that the rest of the world doesn't know what that's like. And so being able to build that resilience in yourself, to be able to say, okay, this is the goal, this is the mission, this is what I want to accomplish, and blur out the noise is something that you and I both have thrived on without really ever talking about it. But I mean, once I could understand that, you know what, you're right, I am into a completely different league, a completely different world. And back when I went to go raise money, right, on Wall Street, it was a very different day, right? It was go get the water. Sure, I'm happy to bring you the water, the coffee, the tea, whatever you want, but I'm here to get a deal done.
Right.
And I didn't look the part. I didn't sound the part. I didn't, on paper, go to the Ivy League school.
Right.
And once I could say, you're absolutely right, I'm never going to look like you, 100%. Not ever going to look like you.
Right.
I'm me. And there's a lot of people out there that just need to know I'm me, and that's good enough, and run with that.
Amen, sister. And that's a perfect segue to what I want everybody, but specifically women in this case, about that. Because you said it, that it's the mindset. It all starts. And you and I off camera, but let's bring it back to camera. It's whatever you feed is going to grow.
Absolutely.
Right? So if you feed confidence, if you feed self-assurance, it'll grow. If you feed fear, if you feed all the things that can go wrong, that'll grow. So you said something powerful, because how many times, especially, remember this was like, how many years ago was that part? Like in the middle of it all.
Oh, I mean, it was years and years of that piece of it.
Right.
But I would say 10, 12 years ago.
Okay, so let's just say 10. So we're in 2024, so that was 2014. So at that point, a lot's changed in a decade, right? As far as media, as far as all that. So think about that stance that you made, and now you're building off, and that's evolved to other things that we'll talk about. But that's why I'd like to maybe ask you two specific things, aside from faith, which I know is a big part of your life, aside from the breakthroughs. What would you think that's applicable if a young lady, any age, said, okay, I need to listen to Trix. These 2 steps I'm going to go apply today to start being better. What, I know it's a powerful question. What do you think those 2 things are?
Number 1, go become an expert in what you want.
So on that, master what path you're going to take. Is that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And become the best that you can at it.
Okay.
So for me, for example, before I started the lending company, I had 6 years of going out and doing what we call fractionalized lending, meaning I raise money from you, person number 2, number 3, what we call today crowdfunding, right?
Right.
But I was doing all of it. I was doing the processing, the origination, the underwriting, all of it. But I had to, because I wanted to become the best at it. Before I was going to go and raise money or do anything, I needed to make sure that I was the best and have that with confidence. And so you go out, and you taught me this. You have your day job and you have your side hustle where you're learning and you're building. And I think that's a very key part, because yes, you have the mindset, but you have to put the work in behind it, right?
So that's awesome, sister. And I love how you knew the answer. And so y'all know, I don't tell any guests what we're talking about. And I'm purposeful about that, because I want the real reaction. So it makes me proud, because my sister truly, she answered that without a hesitation. And it's so true. It's be the best in that field. And I love the second part of what you did. And we'll go back to number 2 that you'll share. I love that you just shared, like, you got to learn all the parts of it. Right. So if we use a restaurant, you got to be the busboy.
Absolutely.
The waiter, the host, the chef, at least to understand how it all works. And also, if you all don't know, we didn't grow up in the same household. And I say that because we're so similar in beautiful ways, but we grew up in complete separate households. So I'm thankful, because those of you that work with me know that I do the very thing as my sister is. I'd like to learn all of it. And then you then add your gift and you run. So I love number 1. What's number 2, sister?
Well, first of all, we should say, because we're half brother and sister, so people don't think.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yes.
We have the same dad.
We have the same dad, so we grew up because that's the way it was. Thank you. That's a good point. I could just see back in the day it was inquiring minds, where now it's
like, wait,
TMZ. TMZ would be like, oh my gosh, did you hear? Like, that's good, sister.
And I would say the second thing is never be the smartest person in the room. Because if you're not constantly learning, you're stagnant. And there's always going to be someone gunning for you if you're good.
Yeah.
So making the assumption that you put in the hard work and you're the best in what you can do, right? Never be the smartest. Always be learning. And so I think it's funny, because I go to dinners and meetings, and I'm like, oh, do you mind if I take out notes? I'm the only person that still writes them out, right? Pull out my little moleskin.
Sister, like you and I, again, for growing up, same dad. It's like, look at my notes. Actually, I did have some notes for today specific, but we still use our books and notes and old school.
Yep. So at dinner, it doesn't matter where it is, how fancy or not, I'm sitting there writing down, because then I'm learning and I'm understanding, how do they look at the world and what did they do that I can learn from? So if you look at everything as an opportunity to learn and to grow and apply to your business or your line of business or your job and how you want to move up in your career, whatever it is that you're wanting to accomplish, really educate yourself on all things about it, right? Because there's things that I can learn from every industry, and that's the beauty of growing and learning. So I think to be the best, you have to surround yourself by the best. And otherwise, you're just being dragged down. Like, everybody's got problems. Everybody's got issues. Everybody's got hardships. And that's fine. We're all human and we can help each other through it. But how are you fulfilling yourself? How are you growing and making your own bar higher?
Well, it's a powerful number two, sister, and I love that. I do. And a lot of people read. I know you read, and I'm getting better at reading. And reading is a great way of getting to know somebody else's life in a shorter amount of time. Let's say hours or days or weeks, depending on how you read. But you get to learn knowledge, right? Bits and pieces. And I love that. But I'm also of the nature of what you just said. I love learning from people. But I think that's what people need to kind of respect about each other. Some people are audio and visual. And I love what you shared. And I love learning from people. But see, most people, sister, I feel, don't go into conversations to listen.
Right. No, they go into talk.
They go into talk. And that's one of the things I've really prided myself on this show is to listen. I'll make sure I repeat. I make sure I hear you or add. But I love hearing. And I've learned already in these episodes. And even with you sharing those two very key things, I think it's great because I do want to keep learning, obviously. But I think that goes back to confidence. It goes back to our focus because most people, if you don't have those qualities, then when people outshine you, most people don't want to be the least smartest in the room.
Right.
They want to think they're the smartest or the best.
Right.
And then they don't do good with it.
Right.
So all that, sister, I'm going to switch gears now to our personal life, right? Us. Because the story started with you being 12, and that particular project was me getting a gym built in Cabo. And at the time, it was quite a bit ago, there wasn't any of that today, but I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do. I didn't know numbers the way I do now, but it all kind of made sense. But I always lacked, sister, and this is a personal moment, I always lacked encouragement. And I believe that's why you have always been one of the many instrumental parts of my life. You're always intentional and you're always thoughtful. And no matter how busy, and we all know you are intentional. You think ahead, but you actually do something about it. You're not just, that sounds good. And that's, I believe, what separates you is that most people, again, it's not that we're talking about something that no one's ever done.
Right.
It's actually doing it. But you do it in a manner that's intentional and makes people feel good. And that's why I want people that get to see you here and hear you here to go, okay, this person is this busy and she has all the reasons to not be intentful with the boys, their events, their skills, their little girl crushes. So we'll get into that's. I ain't gonna get that story
Trying to
out.
make me cry, brother?
No. We're gonna. But I feel that what I want the next kind of that's personal is in our growing up, is we did not grow up in the same household for the reasons that you shared. But as we grew up, as what is a pivotal moment or two that you felt, okay, as much as we love our family and respectfully, there's some challenges there. And without throwing anybody under the bus, but that's not the intention of the question. The intention is in whatever bus was thrown your way.
Oh, I could tell you right off the bat.
Please.
I could tell you. I was Lukey's age. 3
years old.
3 years old. And I remember going to Josie's house.
Yeah.
'Cause if you remember, Mom got the job where she was now going to be the live-in, right? And so Dad and I got to come with her because Krista and Jesse weren't born at the time.
Correct.
And Josie, very wealthy, turns out her and her husband came here from Italy and they started banks and acquired a lot of real estate. I didn't know that at the time. They needed help. And so Mom applied for the job in the newspaper. And part of it was you become a live-in caretaker, right? You take care of the home and the woman that Josie, which had Alzheimer's disease, which progressed. Anyways, we were moving in that day. I didn't understand any of this.
Right.
And they had their big house, and then there was the guest house.
Yep, I remember.
And we were moving into the guest house, and I looked at Mom and I said, "Why are we moving in there and they live there?" And I don't remember the answer. I'm sure she tried to explain it to me.
Right.
But I remember the moment. And that was a moment that I said, no, I want that. And it wasn't about things. It wasn't about a big house, although that's great too. It was about, why can't I have that? I want to work hard. I want to do whatever they did. I want to do it so that I can have that big backyard and I can have all of that. But I remember that as a very defining moment in my life. For whatever reason, that really resonated to me. And I remember going to the bank and going to work with her husband, Eligio, before he passed.
Well, That's beautiful. And for the record, I've never heard that story. So I love that. And thank you for sharing that, sis. And I'm with you. You know, it's not about the house. It is, why can't I?
Right.
Not. Because I'm sure, in all due respect to mom, she gave whatever answer she gave. But I think the mentality, especially along a lot of the Hispanic culture in general, is often, well, that's just the way it is, right? And I know you well enough to know that even at 3 years old, what God was doing was like, no, that's fine. And which is true. It led to the companies that you did. Like, no, but think about that. At 3 years old, a divine blessing of life that you just know that. And again, the beauty that we're going to end the last question is, well, what are we doing with it now? You're doing it, which is blessing others what you've been blessed with. We have an internal thing saying B2B, blessed to bless. I am blessed to bless, right? Even this platform, I got it going through a lot of beautiful people that helped me do it. And if someone receives something, which I know they will, from hearing you, that's blessing to bless. That's what we want. You going through what you've gone through, wisdom for somebody else. They're not going to have the chance to sit one-on-one with you, but they get to hear some tidbits that help you from the very young age go, okay, I can go for the American dream. And it reminds me in a funny way of Scarface. Sorry, because, you know, me and my action movie sister, of when he's sitting there with being dishwasher, and the guy was trying to hustle him for less money. And even though he needed money, he's like, no, I'm worth more.
That's right.
See, I remember that scene. And to me, what you just said at 3 years old, God put in you already, like, no, that's fine. We're humble. And we have plenty of humble stories, you and I. Plenty.
And I think so much of that goes to being first generation in this country. We're so lucky, right? And so blessed. But it also has its, you know, string of challenges, right? Being able to be that oftentimes the kid that goes and speaks for the parents, because the parents might feel a little bit ashamed of not having mastered the English language like Dad. That was something that he really struggled with. It was a him issue, right? Not an us issue. But
on that note, that also comes out a little ugly sometimes, because they battle that and
right. So you're forced to be like, oh, here, I'll help you. I'll talk to the, you know, the check register or whatever it is. But I think having that as a foundation was really pivotal for me in a positive way, because you're forced to the front of the room.
Yeah.
And either way, you're either going to sink or you're going to swim, right? And you're doing it for your family. So at that moment, you don't want, you know, Dad, for example, to feel ashamed or feel anything other than let's just accomplish what we're here to do. If we're here to buy groceries, let's buy the groceries. But I think that really resonated with me and probably with a lot of people, because I learned that we are so blessed to be in this country and we have to give back. And there's a whole story on that piece, right? On how we need to add value, but also how that builds resilience as well, right? And being able to be open about that. Like, absolutely, this is how it was. And this is something that others are going to struggle with. And there is something to be said about that, right? To be able,
I think a lot, sister. I think that's a beautiful, again, I'm learning from you today, because that's another perspective that I think I haven't really heard how you put it, which is you took a bullet, for lack of a better word, for Dad, let's say, in that specific. But that also built resilience for you, because you're like, look, I got to step up.
Right.
Or it's not just my dad, it's our family. It's who we are.
Right.
You know, so I think that's a really great perspective how you shared that.
Because those moments build your character, right?
Yeah.
And it's what you want to do. So was I intimidated to go raise money on Wall Street? No. To be honest with you, no, because I'd already had a similar experience as a kid in my own way, right?
Absolutely.
So it's do you at that moment as a child or as an adult or as, you know, whatever you are in life, do you accept the cards you're dealt and just say, oh, well, it is what it is? Or do you say, okay, I'm going to go make something of it? And I think that comes from within, right? Like
100%. And on that note, sister, I think that's so powerful what you're sharing, because especially today, when everyone's going through a lot of personal things, what we're so scared of is to offend. Where before you could say Merry Christmas and call it a day.
Right.
Okay. And again, if you didn't believe in Christmas, no problem. You either just let it go, or you go, oh, actually, I celebrate Hanukkah. Oh, great. Like, easy.
Right.
And I'm going to stick to that. So you know me. I'm sorry, everybody. Whatever you celebrate, God bless you, but that's that. It's an episode different. I'm just saying, but the difference is that when you are able to articulate that resilience, that you're coming at that age, you're like, I'm already won. Whatever they're going to say is either going to make me better,
Right.
or it's actually going to happen.
Right. And I say this to women all the time. I say to them, you have to change your mindset and how you view it, because no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah.
So I joke around and I say, listen, if you're putting on a pair of jeans and they don't fit, it's not your fault. It's the designer's fault. And if you actually can look at your life that way,
Yeah.
you eliminate a lot of extra noise in your head.
Yes.
And a lot of extra drama that, the next person feels that way too. So I look at that in business and I think, okay, here's a business challenge that I have today. I'm going to make the assumption if I have that challenge, other people have that challenge.
Yep.
So how do I make money off of that? How do I solve the problem, make money off of it, and monetize it?
But I love that because, see, that last part took me longer. We know that. Guys, a side story, I got to tell it. Guys, most of you might have known I was in the gym business for a long time, and that was a huge, would never trade it for the world. The only thing is I could have maybe got off the train a little sooner. And my sister did tell me so many times, and I would look at her like, do not speak those things to me. This is my calling. This is where I need to be in life. And how dare you, may God forgive you. Well, guys, better late than never. I'm in her world to a degree. And thank you for your patience and not completely rubbing it in my face. My little sister does have some good wisdom. So it was never not. I just conflicted with my passion and heart.
Right.
But that's where it's beautiful to have a family like this, because I'm able to do that now more than ever. Mm-hmm. But that was my release to receive, right?
And it's who you are. You're
Yeah.
a coach by nature.
Yeah.
You're a coach no matter where. We could drop you in the middle of the planet by yourself with no cell phone, no money. You'd make friends with everybody. You'd end up running the place, but you'd be coaching. It's who you are.
Yeah. Thank you, sister. And see, you guys just witnessed 12 years old. I'm sitting on the soccer field telling my family about a dream. And literally, with all due respect to my family, they
didn't understand.
They didn't understand. But 12 years old, this beautiful lady just said, brother, you can do it. And that's all I needed. And it's a funny thing, that's all I've ever needed in my life is a little rah-rah. I don't need a lot. Just add a little water and let me grow, right? Mm. That being said, sister, I love that. In that story, though, but I came off your monetize. Because it was always such a battle. And so many people, let's talk about this. So many people have this stigma about money.
Oh, don't
right?
they? And it's a them issue.
Right. It is a them issue. But at the end of the day, when you put money in the hands of great people, what you've done, and I'm doing better in the sense of my status, but the whole time you do what you can with what you have.
Right.
So if you're a good person, you're going to do more with that. And there's plenty of people that have money that do not do anything other than themselves. So that was the hard part that I had to click over. And I have. And thank you for your support and also paving the way in that world. But going on the monetized part, see, can you talk about that? It's nothing wrong with doing well.
Right.
So you're humble. You're a great mom. You're a great sister. You're a great friend. You're a great many things. And yet you go after the big leagues still. You're in the big leagues of money. So you're a living example that you can be humble and hungry. Okay. You can be considerate, thoughtful, driven, and focused. So can you share with them and me a little bit about the monetize, like how you can be so loving, but yet like, no, let's go get money. Let's make money out of this thing.
So the question I asked myself one day, because I heard all of this to your point, and that was very much a mindset, right? And depending on who you're around, that mindset is either heightened or lowered, right?
Right.
I look at it and I think money's a magnifying glass. So it's going to magnify who you are. If you're not a nice person, it's going to show that 100 times more. If you're a great person or a nice person or a generous person, it's going to magnify that because you have more to give.
Sister's preaching.
But I look at it and I think to myself, okay, nobody's asking Tom Brady, why do you want to win? No one's asking the top athlete of whatever generation, why do you want to win? So why is it any different for me? Why is it any different for you? If in business, I want to go out and do it, I want to win. And do you know how you keep score? Making money.
Sister, again, that's 3 major things you've dropped on me today that I have not heard or the way you put them. So thank you. I alone, seriously. But I love what you said that stuck out to me. Money is a magnifying glass. Wow, guys. Woo!
I thought you were saying that I brought in Tom Brady because of his retirement.
No, we have the Shaq story for later, sister. But that is powerful, sister. Wow.
But it's really true, right? Because
Yeah.
it highlights who you are, where you are in your heart.
Yeah.
Right? It really does, because
You can't hide it.
No, you can't. And to a lot who is given, a lot is expected, right?
Right.
So we have that kind of moral obligation to be able to mentor and bring up others. And I think you have to do that every day. It has to be who you are. It's not real.
Well, amen to that, sister. So that's a perfect segue. But man, that's awesome. And I love that because I think that was my battle for so long.
Yeah.
Right. And now my slogan these last couple of months has been release to receive, right? Basically kind of let go, drain out things that you're fearful of, anxieties, and allow God to fill up the cup better, right? Because it's scary. It's always, most people battle the lesser of two evils, right? Or the evil that you know now, or the bad.
Right.
It doesn't have to be evil. Let's say, I'd rather stay in this bad relationship, this bad job.
The devil,
Right. Either because that's unknown. So that obviously our faith is strong. But let's talk about that segue. It's like, what is another moment for you? Because I want them to get to know you more and more. What's a moment for you that you had to really release something? We're going to talk business one and then personal second, that you had to release it. And then you saw God and faith and it come into fruition for you. And you're like, ah. And that obviously continues to help because now you're like a stallion. Because the more you become auto to those things, the faster you get to the good things because you don't give the bad as much attention, right? Same way the other way. If you magnify a problem, it will become that. You can't ignore it. So what is a moment for you or something business-wise that you felt like, man, I got to release this because it's out of my control and I know there's better for me?
So there's so many times in business.
I know.
There's so many, like, on the daily, but I actually think that it's truly on the daily, and it's releasing the fear. And whatever that fear is at that moment, right? It can be the fear that the market's changing, that you have no control over it, or whatever the fear is. For me, it was stopping, taking a breath, and feeling like, okay, wait a second, what's the mission? What is my goal? Put the noise aside, because most of the time we trip ourselves up with our way of thinking because of our own fear. And then you go and you talk to other people, their fears are now projected onto you. So there's just more of the same.
So it's like a sponge. If you're kind of wearing that fear, going into a meeting or going into a business venture, then that sponge will kind of almost draw out their fears. Because that's what you're kind of, I don't say manifesting, but you're kind of like eluding just by your body language or whatever.
And people pick up on that, but it limits you, more importantly. And so that's something that, like, for example, that I learned from Mom. She was very fearless, right? And coming to this country from Cuba, not knowing the language, not having a dollar, not having an education, not having family, that's got to have been, I mean, that's tough, right? Like, that's got to be.
No, I mean, if you think about it today, if you and I were dropped, we don't speak Korean, let's say. And we got dropped in Korea, the good Korea. You know, I mean, and you had to go
figure it out.
I mean, I like to give visuals because it's easier to read something in the past or hear a story. But no, you got to another country. You are a foreigner, not really welcomed by everybody. And now you got to go live the American dream.
And figure what that is.
And what that is. So what is a moment in business that you feel was a tough release for you? Not to be specific if you want to share it, but like a moment that you can go, because I remember one, but I want them to hear you.
There's so many. You mean when I had people try and partner with me to ride my coattails and just take from me? I mean, there's that. Or steal from me.
Well, then I'll ask you one that I know I was there, because this is what I love about our relationship, sister, truly. And this is the real part of who we are. And this is where I feel that our setup is coming. It was a couple years back when you had hired this person to run your company. And they got clever behind the scenes, and they basically kind of oust you. You were still the majority shareholder, but
they wanted to take from me.
They wanted to take from you, and you've never heard this from me, so I need to say it. It was the person at the time, one of your business partners, and you were gonna go to the holiday party, and basically you hadn't really seen everybody, but because it was pretty bad how it went down. But you're like, brother, will you come? I go, yeah, of course. And I'll never forget our car ride there. but just how you walked in, and there was hundreds of people that knew you in your role. And again, the story was placed nicely, but you knew the truth. Few people knew the truth, that it was ugly.
It's very ugly.
But you literally walked, and even though you were dying inside, and I know betrayal, I know backstabbing. So I give you so much credit, sister, for those moments like that, because you were really so strong.
Thank you. It doesn't make me cry, but
I mean, I'll never forget.
it's hard.
We went to the restaurant after the Brazilian place after dinner, and we were sitting there, just the three of us. And I remember going through the party, and I'd look at you and check on you, and the person who did this to you came up to me, trying to, butter it. And again, I always looked at you, and you're like, nope, because,
Go high. When they go low, go high.
You did. You asked me, because you know me, I'll just say what I got to say. And sister's like, no. You just gave me the look, and I know the look. But I never said it to you. See, I never forgot
Thank you.
that you literally, no matter how much you were dying inside, and you had every right. But see, I need people to hear this about you, sister, because they only see you live here, you do this, you do this. They have no freaking idea
How hard it is.
how hard it is to be walking around and people that betrayed you, and you had to put on a smile, but at the end you won. And we're going to talk about that for a second. But man, that was hard.
That was very hard. And to give a little color to that, I built the companies, and then as you grow, you have to break off pieces to raise money and to scale it, to make it a massive scale, right?
Yeah.
This particular company, we got to a couple $1 billion a year, of loans, blah, blah, blah. This is the one that started, like you remember, with a phone and a desk, where you had to walk me out of the office because a homeless guy would rob from me on Fridays.
Yeah.
So to take that, when other women were having their children, these companies were my babies.
Yep.
So to then go and hear other people on a massive scale try and take what I built and say they did it, and that's a flat out lie.
Yeah.
Like, just Google it, first of all. But second of all, to take it and to, in a public forum, try and shame me. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I was shamed for looking the way I do. She doesn't look the part. Literally told she should put her hair in a bun, not wear makeup, wear flats. What are you trying to make me do? Look like a boy? I'm not a boy.
Right.
That's amazing. That's not me. Again,
Right.
You're trying and make me be someone that isn't me, because that's your mindset. Because really what you're saying to me is you can't build anything. You have to ride my coattails and try and take from me.
100%.
So that day was very hard, because like you said, there's hundreds of people. And what am I going to do? You're not going to sit there and, allow to make a scene. So it was hard. And I remember crying after we left and thinking, I'm never going to let that happen again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to teach other people to safeguard themselves so that can't happen, because you work so hard to have someone try and come take it from you, whether they're able to or not. It's that feeling, it's that moment of, wait a second, that's years of hard work.
Yep.
And to just swoop in and do that because you think you're better, I really had to reflect on that and figure out, A, how do I prevent that from happening again?
Yep.
B, what can I do to help others so they don't go through it? But C, how am I going to come back and set the record straight, right?
Yep.
Because at some point you have to hit back. That wasn't the time or the place.
No, and look at it. It's like a long. Back in the day, you used to have 15-round boxing matches, right? For title fights, and to me, that's what you were fighting, because, like you said, the equivalent. This is your kids.
Yeah.
This you had no. This was your kids. This was your family.
10 years. minimum.
And I think, just to give some content to what you're sharing about, for visualization of people to go, wait a minute, I'm coming in, I'm a guest in your house. All of a sudden, I'm cooking, and before you know, I take over your house.
And I'm telling the world it's mine.
And I'm telling everyone it's mine, and shaming you.
Oh, and we know that happened several times in my life. Ex-husband and, right? So you look at that and you think, okay, there's something I need to work on in myself to make sure that I don't allow, first, that I understand why I allowed that or didn't see it coming.
But that's a big one, sister. And everybody, guys, hear what my sister said. Yes, these people were wrong, but she had to recognize why was it happening.
Right.
And that takes a big person, sister. And I'm proud of you because she had to go like, yes, they were wrong, but that's not going to stop.
Right.
You are a target. Anyone that's going to do anything good in life is a target. You don't think of the worst quarterbacks. You think of a Tom Brady.
Right.
Who's the worst on your team? Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
And you have been on top of that. So they're going to come for you. Ride your coattails. But you had to recognize, wait a minute, there's a common denominator here. I cannot be a victim.
Right.
But at the same time, why do they think they can do this to me?
Right.
2, what can I do to safeguard it? And 3, how do I counter back? Because sometimes you do need old-fashioned actions to make sure that people go, no.
Right.
You confuse my kindness for weakness. So,
and I was young in business, right?
Yeah.
That was first round, second round, third round. You learn and you grow. But you also see how others handle situations and how they prevent things without you even asking. You just can watch, kind of like going back to like not being the smartest person in the room.
yeah.
And I definitely want to be able to share that and help other entrepreneurs so that they don't have to kind of struggle and have some of the battle wounds that we've had. I didn't go to business school. You didn't go to business school. But of course, I'm going to encourage everyone to go to business school because
Right.
that just gives you a leg up.
Sure.
Or to law school or whatever foundational piece that they need. That's something that no one can take from you, right?
Right.
We learned at the school of hard knocks of like just getting in there and rolling up your sleeves and
Right.
doing it. There's something to be said about that and the grit that you develop. But there's also ways that we can be smarter and work smarter.
Absolutely. You had a good point, sister. Look at it. Yes, we got here, but that leads to kind of the last couple questions. We're good on time, but of what we're going to do from here and how we're doing it, right? I think that's important because I want them to hear that we're reflecting on the past to bring us to the present, to then how we're moving forward. Because that's a big part. Too many people, you and I've talked about this, stay in the past.
Right.
Then they get bitter because here's the biggest thing, the lie I believe that a lot of people, they live in the past because they're scared of the future, right? We're not scared of the future. Yes, it's scary sometimes, but it goes back to why did I allow myself to not get the value out of the clients when I was coaching? I'll never forget your business partner at the time said to me, Henry, you're charging way too cheap. And instead of me listening, I did the classic, it defended myself rather than just go, wait, number one, thank you that you think I'm worth more. See, again, mind shift. As great of a coach I feel I've been, those are some things I had to also like, well, why am I allowing myself? I know when they walk away from me, it's a phenomenal workout. It's a phenomenal mental and emotional switch. So why am I allowing, same as you, why are you allowing this? Why am I allowing? It's different. They go, look, Henry, how much do you charge? $150 an hour. Okay, I can't afford that. Can I do this? And that's different than $35, $40, And when I know what I'm delivering, and that was a big lesson for me for another time in our show, but I love that you shared that because it starts with us. It starts with us because we can blame everybody, but then we're a victim.
Right. And then you never know your real value.
You don't know your value. So, and that's why the fire of what we talked about. So so that was the business. So what about a personal one real quick? And then we'll go to what we're going to do with it. And then we're going to leave people hanging because they're going to hear episode 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and a whole season on sister and brother. So what was a personal thing that you felt you had to release that, to receive? I know there's one that comes to mind for me, for you, but this is your time.
Which one were you?
This is you being a new mom. That's what really hits me because, but you tell me.
Well, I mean, there's so many, right?
Yeah.
Like even on that point and I have two, toddlers basically at this point, 3 and 5, and, doing the mom thing, which is amazing, and being able to do my passion, which is business and helping people in whatever way that I can.
Yeah.
But all of it, right, can be scary, can be overwhelming. It can be, a challenge, but there's so many even health issues, right? Having gone through one, recently with 2 brain tumors, not easy to not
Well, let's
easy
talk
to
about
overcome.
that because see, that's a release and receive. You had to receive to make you up because you could have stayed there. It was real. It was scary. It was. I mean, your everything, your companies, your kids, your family.
Yeah, everything.
And this wasn't that long ago.
And you don't have control of any of it.
Right. So you had to release it. So in releasing that, and again, what I love about you is you also do your homework, you do your research, you do learn. You will go learn about it. And you're not just taking one person's opinion. You are doing it. You want to, this goes back to what you said in the very beginning, is master what you're learning. See, and there you're doing it. See, you're mastering within reason. You're not just being a Google doctor.
Right.
You're going, look, I want to go in there. I don't understand what this is,
Right.
but let me just at least understand
Right.
the form.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
who's performing what on the procedure. Yeah.
Yeah. So in releasing even that, so let's just go from there. Once you release that, how do you feel that did for your mind, your switch? How do you feel today you're looking great. It was challenging. So how do you feel that release and how are you applying it today? And that'll segue perfectly into how you're doing business and life different today. With all those hits, bumps, now your best work's coming together. I really feel for you. So how do you see that?
So I think when you have a situation like that, that's medical, that is terrifying, right?
Yeah.
You're forced to then say, okay, let me stop, because this is not something that you can white knuckle and just grit through it like you
Right.
can in certain things in life and in business. This is now, okay, wait a second. I am responsible for 2 young kids. I'm responsible for A, B, C, and D.
Yeah.
But more importantly, my story's not done. There is so much more to go in this life and do. And so when you think about it and you're forced into that situation, you say, okay, let me take the tools that I've developed through the years of going and understanding what and becoming, an expert as much as you can in that space to get you the best outcome. But let's also reflect on, what does this mean, right? And what does this mean to me as a person? Like, all of these amazing things are great, but what fulfills me is being able to encourage and motivate and help others in business, in life, across the board.
Yeah.
So how do I couple that with this? Because I know it's going to be a triumphant win. I know we're going to be able to come out on the other side like I have, thank God. And there's, a lot of luck that comes to it too, because not everybody gets the opportunity to be able to sit here like I am with you and say, I'm so happy I have a second shot at it. Right. And to be no cancer. I mean, that's amazing.
That alone is a huge victory, and thank God for that.
Huge. And I'm so lucky. So a lot has been given, a lot is expected, right? So I think back to, what can I do with what I've learned? I don't know it all, but I certainly know what not to do.
Well, and that's why, listen, in this last part, that's why I wanted to really have people, what are we doing that's practical? So let's unpack this for a viewer that's like, okay, I hear their stories. This is my point. They hear this from others and stories, but what is a practical thing? And we both can share one or two that they can go do today. They're struggling. They hit a wall. They're in that moment, health scare that was real. They were in a business scare that was real. What are we going to continue to do? Because there's one or two for me that comes to mind. And then what comes to mind that's Otto that you're doing now that's helped change and keep a peace to you, aside from our faith, like that you're able to go out there and balance a very demanding career in the sense of the way you do business. You're, and again, high level thing. So it's not just you get home at 5 o'clock.
No.
Sometimes you get home at 8 or 9 o'clock. And of course you're home the next, you balance it beautifully being an active mom. So that's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's a challenge.
It is a challenge. So what is your inspiration? Because I want people to leave every one of these shows with these amazing guests, especially my sister, to go, okay, that makes sense to me. Because you and I both been to those rah-rahs and you leave pumped up, and then you're like, but where do I go?
Right.
So what's the easy, the word is, compounded. What is an efficient way that you feel someone can go, okay.
I think for me, it's the way you start your day.
Okay.
So whether that's meditating, working out, whatever that is for you as a person that is going to recharge you and get your mindset ready for the day, I think, to me, that's critical, right? Like, going back to the athlete analogy, they don't go into the Super Bowl
right,
just like, I woke up today and I think I'll go play, no.
Right.
There is discipline, and there's dedication, and there's nutrition, and there's workouts, and there's all these things that take place during the day. But I think it's getting your head on straight in the morning to know what you're there to accomplish. Otherwise, you become a jack of all trades of whoever's screaming the loudest, right? Whoever needs you at that moment, whether it's in life, in business, or whatever, you're now just giving and doing that instead of what your real mission was. And I think that develops the focus that you need to accomplish, the goal.
I love that. And I agree with you. So in my version of unpacking that, it is how you start your day is crucial, because if you just look at your phone and go, oh, there's 3 emails,
Right.
there's 4 texts,
Right.
then you automatically become depleted.
Right. And you're like that pressure and the
Right.
anxiety and like, "Ugh, I'm
Right.
already behind the 8 ball.
So to me, how I hear that is your day is going to be based on your circumstances immediately. Maybe some days there's a great text, but at the end of the day, you're still governed by what's given, as opposed to you going, wait, I'm going to take control of what I can control, which is how I start my day. Like you said, devotions, meditation, working out, a little bit of all.
Right.
So by the time you're about to be a mom in a moment, be a businesswoman, you are now filled up a little bit. And I think that's crucial. So that's a great way. So I will then share one back. And mine is how I end the day. I used to just end the day, give some thanks, and go to bed. But what I've been realizing, I would say in this last year, is a lot of times I'd be like already thinking about tomorrow. We're planners. But I still do that, but I write it out and then leave it so it's set. So rather than me just always going to bed, just even if it's a good meeting or like getting ready for this podcast, your mind still is going.
Yeah,
and
you can't shut it off.
Right. So I learned that for me, I need to go to bed just in a gratitude state of mind. Right. So I've gotten a little cheesy, but it's really helped me. Like, hey, thank you, God, that I have this bed, that I have a good home, because we both know what's like not to have. And that's, again, another whole show on that. But it's helped me end me and being thankful, because when I wake up, I really, if I by mistake have to check a text or I don't get to my routine, I'm already kind of filling up. And this started with 5 years ago. I didn't realize this, how I ended my year. I did this 30-day countdown, 31-day countdown, but it wasn't because people go, well, I'm going to start fresh in January. But in these last 5 years, I've seen my life elevate up because I ended strong, balanced strong. And I, even if I'm taking a vacation with us, ended strong, rested strong. It didn't mean just like full speed. It just meant prep work is an easier way to say it. I ended my year and I ended my night by just going, man, I feel good. I'm now ready for tomorrow. So we're good for one more on time. See, I love this. This is why we're going to have a whole season on us. But that being said, what's another practical part? Because I love that one.
Well, I love what you said, because gratitude is everything. And I think that for you, for example, you show gratitude and thankfulness in everything that you do. But back to that piece, you also, I know you very well, you take Sundays to prepare for the week. And I think that's critical for people to adopt as well, because you have to prepare for the week. You have to prepare for life. Life can't just happen to you.
Yeah.
You have to also, this is what I want. Now, of course, it may not always turn out that way, and you handle, the changes and you maneuver, but at least you had a plan and a direction. And I think so many people are like, tell me the direction. No, you have to come up with the direction, right?
Yeah.
It has to be what you want.
No, thank you, sister. I love that. And then sometimes, let's say if it's a Sunday that we're going to fully rest and I do it on Saturday, right? I just believe that the more we can plan, and then I think, my little 3 Ps, and I pray over it, and people can meditate, they can relax, whatever their particular part is. And then I proceed. And then in that, it goes back, what I love that I heard about you is you go in with a victorious mindset, right? Because no matter what is said, I'm already winning, because I'm either going to get the deal that's meant to be, or I'm going to learn.
Right.
So either way, it's a victory.
Right.
See, that is a practical thing that hopefully these viewers can take, because it's like you said, it's like, if it's a Sunday, if it's a Friday, either way, you're feeling good.
Right.
Right. Because then you're going into the day already going. If you get up that Monday morning and you're like, okay, what do I have to do today? You already need to know what you're going to do.
Right.
At least have a plan.
Right.
It can be audibles, but audible was brought from the game football.
Right.
And the football was that they already had a plan.
Right.
The audible ones, meaning change the plan at the line of scrimmage. And sister, that is like when the ball's about to be hiked. We'll have a story about Shaq later. It's going to be forever our story. But that's why less audibles, but always ready. But the more we plan, and I did a quote the other day, I got a lot of people responding good. Plan better, repair less.
It's true.
Right?
So true.
So I love what you were saying about that. And sister, what is something, as to end on our brother, sister, this could be our signature, or you could tell me something if you feel better. what is something that as a family, because I know there's so many things that really have made us very blessed and special. And I'm very, very, very thankful. I kept it non-emotional. If you notice, we only had one moment, but there's so many beautiful things with Zach and Cassie specifically because of who you are to them, and who I am now starting to become for Lukey and Liam, and it's just a beautiful 180 of life. What is something about our family now? Because we, again, with all due respect to our parents, there's a lot that we had to change. They did the best they could. So what is something for you now to end? Because at the end of the day, no matter what, everybody, that we do, it is about our family. So what is a takeaway to wrap this baby up that you feel our family, eludes?
Moments. I think that our family comes together and creates moments and memories. And it doesn't matter if it's sitting there and watching a TV show together, or playing a game, or being on a yacht. We're equally as happy on any of the three scenarios because we're hanging out and spending time together. And I think those moments are the foundation and the anchor. I know, at least for me, for my sons, that's what matters to me. So all the rest is to create those moments and be able to have that almost like refuel together.
Sister, all I want to say is amen. And you're right. It is moments because we have, and I want to just show this as a testimony for us and our family. We have been where we have our Laughlin trip that will come back. That was as budget as you can be. That was as ghetto as you can be. That every stereotype that you want, we lived it.
Absolutely.
But we'll never forget even Zach's story on that. And it is blessed. And then we've also gone the complete opposite. We have a beautiful house in Cabo, but it is moments, and that's beautiful, sister. And thank you. And I echo that. I truly do. And I love seeing the boys grow into that. Amari, our first little, for me, grandbaby, like growing into that. Like it's beautiful to see that. And even what I asked this year for my birthday, I said, nope, my wish is all of us together. That is all that matters. And whether we do it in the cabin or we do it whatever. So, sister, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you've done for me and our family, because even though I'm the big brother, I've needed a lot of what you have brought to the table, and thank you. And at the same time, I love that I'm able to be a big brother in areas in these last moments of life, moments of business life, that to be giving back. And then I see the kids getting older, and then they're doing, and it's just beautiful to see how this all has come. So thank you for what you've done and do.
Thank you. And thank you for being the first real entrepreneur that I wanted to emulate.
Well, thank you. And thank you for being better and not repeating a lot of the mistakes that I did. And that's what makes wisdom. So everybody, my beautiful sister, who I love very much. And thank you for following. Thank you for being supportive. Another shout out to our sponsor. I got to make sure, because if I ever wear a different hat, it's not. And thank you to our crew. And with that, God bless you and have a great rest of your day.